Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel and thank you so much for joining me today. So today I'm going to be talking about the inquiry-based learning cycle. So if you're interested in this topic, then please keep on watching. So this week I'm going to be talking about the inquiry-based learning cycle. Even though I say the inquiry-based learning cycle, there are actually many inquiry-based learning cycles with various different names for the different stages and phases when we go through the inquiry process. So I just wanted to share a systematic literature review and synthesis of all of the different inquiry-based models that was actually conducted by Padlet et al. In 2015. And they looked at many different inquiry-based cycles and different models, and they have synthesized all of the different models down to these 6 phases and steps. They've summarized all of the different models and then tried to synthesize what the common phases were in an inquiry-based model. Okay, so let me just make myself a little bit smaller, move myself out of the way. So you can see the synthesis of all the different inquiry model learning cycles include these 5 stages. And I'm going to just talk through each individual stage. So the first stage is about provocation. And what does provocation mean? This is the kind of orientation phase at the very beginning where we want to pique students' curiosity with some kind of learning challenge. So I've got some examples here: scenario, it could be a visual, video, situation, or a problem, but we present students with a stimulus or some kind of anchor that's worthy of observation and investigation. So that's the first phase. Now, the next phase is conceptualization, and this is where we actually start asking questions. These questions may be student-generated questions, or they may be teacher-generated questions. We want to be generating different hypotheses as well, and this includes actually defining what the actual problem or the situation is to be explored or investigated. The third stage is to do with the investigation stage. And this phase actually starts off with the planning of the exploration and the different experimentation. And it could include some data collection or information collection based on observations. And then once we have those observations or data, we want to be able to look for patterns. We want to look for inferences and interpret that data and analyze it. And after the investigation stage, you can see there's the conclusion stage. So we try to find relationships between different concepts based on the data or information that we've collected. We draw some conclusions. We ask our students to justify their conclusions as well. And hopefully there may be some iteration or refinement and devising of different explanations, and encouraging students to communicate their conclusions. And you can see that the last page here I've talked about is the discussion or the reflection. And this is where we give our students the opportunity to reflect and communicate their conclusions and also address the hypothesis that they actually presented at the beginning of this learning cycle. This phase also includes application and transfer of their understanding to different contexts from the original situation that was posed. One of the learning cycles that I love is the 5 E's. I'm just going to show you what the 5 E's are. So the 5 E's start with engage, which I think is the provocation stage. And then you ask students to explore, which is conceptualization and investigation. And in the investigation part, you ask your students to explain their findings. Then we move on to elaborate, and then we move on to evaluate. So those 5 E's is another way to encapsulate that idea of the inquiry-based learning cycle. Now, I hope that that was useful because there are so many different learning cycles out there. And I thought that this wonderful systematic review of all of the literature based on the different inquiry-based learning cycles was really helpful in trying to distill what those common phases are in inquiry-based learning. I hope that you found that distillation of that systematic review of all of the literature on inquiry-based learning models helpful. I'm going to put a link to the actual original research paper in the comments section below. I would love to hear your comments, and maybe you use a particular inquiry-based learning cycle that is useful, like the 5 E's as an example. Thank you so much for joining me again this week, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.